All right, friends, it's time to give you loyal listeners a discount on protein powder. You may or may not know, but I launched my very first protein powder 2 years ago. It's a grass-fed beef isolate with only 3 ingredients: grass-fed beef, either organic cacao or organic vanilla, and organic monk fruit. Now, if you don't want any of the added flavor and sweeteners, you can also just get unflavored. And no matter what flavor you choose, you're getting over 23 grams of protein per scoop, which is going to keep you full and satisfied between meals. I love starting my day with a Fab4 smoothie and breaking my fast with that much protein. It makes a serious difference in my cravings and blood sugar balance the rest of the day, and I've seen it with my clients as well. Now, I never thought I'd own a product company, but when I got pregnant with Sebastian, I realized the majority of protein powders were chemically extracted or enzymatically extracted, and I wanted to use heat and water only. I wanted minimal ingredients because we don't need those emulsifiers, fillers, or added vitamins, minerals, and probiotics. All of those additions increase the chances that it's not going to work for your body, whether it be bloating, digestion issues. I just wanted pure, clean protein to keep you full and satisfied so you could build the most delicious Fab4 smoothie. And I have to say, I'm pretty proud of the flavor. If you take a look at our reviews on Amazon, you'll see 5-star reviews for flavor. And that is key, because if you don't love your Fab4 smoothie and you don't love drinking your protein powder, you're not going to do it. It won't become a habit, and it's consistency that outpaces everything. So if you're here and you're listening and you want to give our protein powder a try, use the code podcast5 for $5 off your order. And let me know if you love it. My favorite ways to apply this protein powder is in my Fab4 smoothie, making freezer fudge, making chocolate milk, making hot chocolate, and throwing the unflavored into all my kids' baked goods. So let me know how you use it. Let me know if you love it, and share this podcast deal with your friends. Hey guys, welcome to my first ever solo podcast. Super funny talking to myself via Zoom. Just staring at myself. Hey, how's it going? What's up? Anyways, I pulled you guys via Insta stories for some questions for this podcast episode. And over this next 45 minutes, I'm going to be talking about blood sugar, how to get out of a food rut. I'm going to talk about how to stop snacking. I'm going to go into detail about my postpartum journey between baby Tosh versus Bash, and give you guys some tips if you're on a tight food budget. So let's get started. I think I'll take the most fun question first, which is to talk about my babies and my postpartum journey. So I will start with Sebastian. When I was pregnant with Sebastian, he was my second pregnancy. I had had a miscarriage in August prior to conceiving with Sebastian, but I had taken 3 solid months to up my nutrient status, to become metabolically flexible, get serious about working out. I kind of took a minute and reset my body. I got pregnant with our first baby on my first book tour. I had a lot of travel, was a lot of stress on my body. And so when that tour was over, I said, let's take a beat and let's do this seriously. I took 3 months to prepare for that. And I think it made a big difference. My nutrient status was up. I had been taking my prenatal really seriously. I'd been working out, like I said. I was actually dipping into burning ketones for fuel. I was pretty low carb. I had put on a few pounds and then miscarried. So I kind of wanted to get back to what my normal weight was. So I was taking it, like I said, really seriously. I felt phenomenal when I was pregnant with Sebastian. All the energy, all the endorphins. It was like, I was so excited to be pregnant again. I was a little bit nervous, obviously, if anyone's had a miscarriage as their first pregnancy. You're always a little bit on edge, like, oh, what if it happens again? But, passed through that 12-week mark. I had never really dealt with any morning sickness in that second pregnancy with Sebastian. Was able to work out until Bash's due date, which, looking back with baby T, I stopped working out around 35 or 36 weeks. And I'll go into that, but felt phenomenal, and then had a train wreck of a delivery. And Chris and I were both very worried about Sebastian's brain health after our traumatic birth and his 2 weeks at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. So knowing we were bringing home a healthy baby 2 weeks after he was born, the postpartum journey for that was I completely turned off my email. There was no contact with work. It was really just cocooned in our apartment with a first child. You're not chasing after a toddler. It was pretty magical, I would say. We just focused on him and taking walks. We weren't in a pandemic. There was a lot of things that were different. I was younger. I wasn't worried about how I was going to pay for college for my young kids. It was a different experience. And really, we were just feeling so much gratitude that we had a healthy child, that I took about 6 months. I mean, I started dipping back into work at 3 months, but I really wasn't seeing clients for 6 months after Sebastian was born. And the things that I started to worry about with Bash were really, really his eczema journey, which we ended up identifying he was allergic to eggs, dairy, and dogs. And, eczema is a form of leaky skin. If you say like a leaky gut, leaky skin. And so coming in contact with the foods he was eating was increasing his allergic reactions to, food introduction and all of that. So it was really more worrying about him. In the postpartum journey, I bounced back. I gained 26 pounds with Sebastian. I was back to my pre-pregnancy weight about 2 weeks after delivery. That has to do a lot with stress. I mean, I was in a stressful situation. I was pumping around the clock, so probably pumping more than I would have been feeding him as a baby. I was forced to move and walk every single day, walking from the hotel we were staying in by Children's Hospital Los Angeles to the hospital, around the hospital, back to the hotel for a few hours every night, back to Bash's hospital room. So it was stressful and fast, and I'm not about that snapback life. I think we just need to take our time in our postpartum journey to make sure that our nutrient status is staying high and that we're not depleting ourselves. Postpartum depletion is a thing. And I think when I look back at Bash, I lost more hair with him. Losing hair in postpartum is a postpartum thing that can happen to any of us. And I could just tell, when I look back, I felt energized and vibrant, but I had gone through a really stressful situation. And so it was a different experience. Baby T, I'm actually going to share our delivery story with my OB next week. I'm so excited to share that. Was the most beautiful, easiest delivery. He has been such a sweet little chunk. And being a second-time mom, I'm not worried about him. I'm not worried about him not breathing or being okay. And your intuition's kicked in. You've already done it once before. So this time around, I gained over 30 pounds with baby T, and I still have about 8 pounds to lose. I'm not worried about it. I'm kind of taking my time. I realize that I have a toddler, and I'm really more worried about my nutrient status. So I'm really caring more about taking my prenatals every day, eating as much red meat as I possibly can, 2 to 3 times a week. I am drinking bone broth. I'm taking amino acids. I am diligent with my Fab4 smoothies. I'm more interested in moving my body because it's making me feel good and really getting my core back in shape. Something that I felt pretty strong after Sebastian's birth. And then the second time around, I'm noticing that my lower core and my core muscles are just not where they need to be to support my back. And it isn't that I want a 6-pack. It's that I just don't want low back pain. Picking up a 30-pound toddler and picking up baby T, who's literally, like I said, such a chunk. He's put on so much weight. He's even causing my low back to be in a little bit of pain. So I'm really actually more focused on nutrient status and keeping that high so that I don't have the hair loss and the hormone fluctuations that I had with Sebastian, and really focusing on being strong, because our muscles are our metabolism. And I know I just want to be strong, and I really want to be stronger than I was before I get pregnant again. And a year or 18 months goes by so fast, and it's just about getting consistent. So I'm not doing anything crazy, maybe a 20-minute Peloton ride and 10 minutes of abs or strength. I definitely need to dip into their other classes as well. And I'm open to any suggestions you guys have via DM on Instagram or whatever. But really for me, it's about strength. It's about sleep. I was a little wish-washy with Sebastian always wanting to make sure that if there was ever a peep from him, that I was running to his side. And baby T's already so much more independent, and I put him down awake and he's falling asleep, and he's just, they're each a little bit different, and it's been really special. I care a lot about how Bash is doing. Obviously, he's my firstborn. I want him to love his brother. So there's a lot that goes on in the postpartum journey. But I will say the one thing that is a little bit different is, as my business continues to build and grow, I said this to my husband, to Chris, the other day. I was like, I feel like I put my toe in to work and someone reaches up, grabs me by the ankle and pulls me under. So I've been trying to really protect some of our personal and private time together as a family, and to spend really good quality time with the boys. And I've just realized as a mom, when you multiply as a family, you're being pulled in so many different directions. You can't just fly by the seat of your pants like you did before. You really have to have schedules in place. You have to put in that private time for yourself and those workouts. You have to put in the personal time and the one-on-one time with your kids where you put your phone away. I'm thankful that I'm breastfeeding, because I know, at 7, 10, 1, 4, 7, that like I'm getting at least 35, 45 an hour with baby T to have that special time. But yeah, the postpartum journey for both has been a little bit different. And I think my head's in the right place this time around, just because I haven't gone through the trauma. But I will say, what the beauty and the silver lining of a traumatic birth and a hard start with a child is you really prioritize what's important, and that's your family and that special time, and shutting the world out and not thinking about work and thinking about your kids. And what I hope to take from Bash's birth, and what I hope to always provide for my kids and to prioritize for my kids, is that they know that they're the most important thing in my life, and that I will always put them first and explain to them when I can't. And yeah, so I think, the journey is just different because I'm in a different place, because I've had a different birth, because I have a different child, and, taking it in stride. But when it comes to me and how I'm taking care of myself, it's really about building myself up nutrient wise and building myself up muscle wise. And when I can, turning off The Bachelor to make sure that I go to sleep early. So, or watching it on a Tuesday instead of having to stay up way past my bedtime. So that was question number one, the difference between baby T and Bashy's postpartum journey. And I will say, if you are thinking about becoming a mom, or if you are on that journey, I did write a pregnancy nutrition course. It's great for right before you have a baby and preparing your body, 3 months prior to getting pregnant, being pregnant. But I will say, it is the most magical experience in the whole world to become a mom. And even if you're a full-time working mom like I am, you can do it. And it is, God, there's no greater gift. So, and they're funny. Like, kids are the best. The things that come out of their mouths sometimes, it's comedy. So have yourself some kids, at least for the comic relief. Question number 2. I'm on a tight food budget. What are some ways to save while trying to buy quality where it matters? That's a great question. So one of the things that I've done personally with my family is limit the number of places that I purchase food from. So I prioritize buying as much as I can from Thrive Market. And on top of buying from Thrive Market, which is a membership-based online website, I have started auto shipping as much as possible. Auto shipment gives you an additional 10% off. A lot of us buy a lot of the same things, and we really can save there. If you make my smoothies and you drink a lot of nut milks, those can be really expensive. And when you actually make it yourself, you're saving more than half. So either picking a white label version of your favorite nut milk from Thrive Market, or starting to make your own, or using water in your smoothies, that's a great way right there to save. Another thing that's more expensive is like the chocolates and the processed foods. So I love making freezer fudge. It's one of my favorites. If you don't have time to do that, buying a big bag of chocolate chips and getting little condiment cups as your dessert. That can be a way to save. And then another thing is CSA boxes. So we have the Ecology Center down here in Orange County, and you can become a member of anytime where you can become a member or become a part of a co-op and get involved. That is a great way to save money. And so they also do really big farmers market boxes, produce boxes. And I had another question actually that came up was someone's in a food rut and where do you turn when you need fresh food inspiration? And my favorite place to turn is to my CSA box, because when I get that box or when I go to the Ecology Center farm stand with Sebastian and he points to something like celery root, he wants to buy it, I have to figure out how to make it. So that's something we've been doing, is trying to pick a new veggie or a new fruit or something, a new herb that we can incorporate that we may not use very often. One thing every time we go. Like the last thing I got was a big bushel of dill, and I ended up making a homemade ranch, and I made some dill potatoes for the boys and for me. And so it was absolutely delicious. And something I would consider doing is one, if you're on a tight food budget and you know quality matters, I think the most important thing to think about when it comes to quality is purchasing quality proteins and trying to look at the dirty dozen and making sure that you're buying those organic. So when it comes to buying the things that are covered in pesticides or may have poor quality, prioritize your proteins and prioritize like the dirty produce that you may buy to get out of a food rut. Get involved with a local CSA or start getting a farm box, because that's automatically going to start. That's going to get you excited about making something new, and you're forced to do it. And I will say, the automation of receiving my proteins from Butcher Box, my pantry items from Thrive Market, and my produce from a CSA, or going down to the Ecology Center and buying them, is that one, it's in my freezer, and eventually I'm going to get another box, which means I'm going to have to defrost something to make something new and make space in my freezer. That is a great way to keep me motivated. I'll just go in, fill up my water in my garage. I'm using glass delivery of water by a company called Mend right now, just because we're renting and we're not in a place to put full filtration, reverse osmosis filtration systems in my house. But I'll fill up my water, and then I will habit stacking. I will grab my proteins, whatever I'm going to make for the night, pull them out, throw them in my fridge, or put them in the sink if I need to defrost them a little bit faster in a Ziploc bag or a glass Pyrex, and allow for those to defrost. And then I know what I'm making for lunch or for dinner that day. And that really keeps me going. And it's not about having a perfect recipe. It's about picking a veggie that you've never used before, an herb you've never used before, and then looking up a recipe or getting creative about using it and just making one new thing. And then what ends up happening is, after a week or 10 days go by and you've done that, you may incorporate that recipe moving forward. It may be something you make all the time. Like I remember the first time I made my cashew creamer. Now it's just, I get automatically, I signed up for auto shipment through Thrive of raw cashews. They come to my house. I put a few cups in my blender, a few cups of filtered water, a splash of vanilla, a little shake of organic Ceylon cinnamon. I blend it up and I put it in, a glass container in my fridge. And then I have the most delicious coconut, or sometimes I put coconut in it, but cashew creamer. And I don't have to worry about buying a creamer. I don't have to worry about fillers, emulsifiers. And it's so easy. Like literally less than a minute. And I'm set for my coffee for the week, and I've saved money. So push yourself a little bit outside your comfort zone. Really think about how you can incorporate homemade things and what you really need, right? If you wanted to save money on tortillas, for example, making a cassava or almond flour tortilla is a really simple, a few ingredients with a little bit of water, and they cook up in a couple minutes aside. So those are some things that are expensive. So what I would do is look at your grocery bill and say, circle what the most expensive things are, and then try when they're processed, and try to replace those with something that's a little less processed, or maybe homemade, or maybe something you can make in bulk. You could make 50 tortillas in bulk and freeze them and then reheat them when you needed to and save a bunch of money there. So really it's just about getting creative, finding those most expensive things on your grocery bill, replacing them when you can, and asking yourself, like, do I really need this? Because we can all get sold on really fun ingredients or products. But I will say living a minimalistic lifestyle, becoming a minimalist when it comes to your groceries and who you're buying from, becoming a minimalist on what you need, especially now, like in 2020, in the pandemic, it feels really freeing. It's really relaxing. And I think it helps all of us. So that's what I would say when it comes to quality. Focus on your proteins, focus on the dirty dozen and buying those clean. If something is really expensive and it's also something that tends to be worrisome when it comes to pesticide use, always look for organic options frozen. So all your organic leafy greens and your berries, when you're purchasing those organic and frozen, they're going to be more affordable and you're going to get more in the bag. So that's something to consider as well. Do you need to buy these things fresh, or can you get away with them frozen? Frozen produce is locking in the nutrients there. So you don't need to worry about losing nutrients, respiration, or anything like that. And they can be easily incorporated into a smoothie. You can also roast them. I saw a great video on Liz Moody's Instagram the other day where she talks about roasting frozen broccoli. What she does is she basically puts the frozen broccoli on a baking sheet without any oil, and she cooks it in the oven to evaporate the water, then brings it out, drizzles on some olive oil, adds some seasoning, and roasts it again. So get creative about using frozen produce. That's a phenomenal way to save money. And also a great way to make sure you're locking in the nutrition. Things aren't going bad in your house. So another great way to save when it comes to your food budget. So that's another one. All right. That was kind of a rant. All right. Let's go into the next question. What books are at the top of your reading list for this year? Well, because I'm having so many people on the podcast that I'm really excited to have on the podcast, a lot of these doctors are authors. So I'm reading Postpartum Depletion right now. I'm reading Dirty Genes by Dr. Ben Lynch. He is the founder of Seeking Health, which is the prenatal vitamin that I love. So really loving both of those books. I feel like I have a laundry list of books that I want to read. Tina Bryson, who wrote The Whole Brain Child, came out with a new book, The Power of Showing Up. So I'm really excited about, I believe that's the name of the title of that book. That's also in my Audible lineup. So sometimes I'll read books, paper books, and sometimes I'll listen to them. Sometimes if I really want to learn, I buy the paperback and I download the Audible and I take notes as I listen and read at the same time. It's like an audio and visual mashup, and I save those books. Those are books that I treat like textbooks, especially if there's references to studies and something that I can go check on PubMed and research. What was the study about? Does it have a significant p-value? What was the study design like? Something like that. So those would be a couple of books that are at the top of my list right now. All right, let's pop into the next question. I eat the Fab Four, but I can't quit my snacking habit. What are your tips for reining it in? Snacking's tough. It's absolutely habitual. And what I will tell you from wearing a continuous glucose monitor is that it wrecks glucose. I've known it for a long time, but what ends up happening is you eat a meal, your blood sugar goes up, it's on its way back down. You're feeling like, this crash doesn't feel so great, or the going down part doesn't feel so great, or I'm stressed, or I'm bored, or the Zoom meeting sucks. And I'm going to go have a snack because this is a appropriate procrastination tool, right? I mean, we've all been there. It totally is. You're like, I could go for something. And the crazy part is the minute you think about food or imagine what's in your pantry, or you smell something cooking, if you're slow cooking something, those are all triggers that you need to go eat something. And you may not really even be hungry. So first we need to identify, is it a habit? Can't quit my snacking habit. Well, it may just be a habit. And so we need to identify that. Is it a habit? One way to identify if it's a habit or not is to drink some water with electrolytes. You guys know I love Element. It's a sugar-free electrolyte drink, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. It has a lot of sodium in it. A lot of us are afraid of salt, but what salt makes us feel is absolutely phenomenal because we're fully hydrated. And so one thing that I would say is I see a lot of clients drink a bunch of water all day long and they're peeing and their pee doesn't even look yellow. And really all the water going in is on its way out. And if you live a lower carb lifestyle, you're purging a lot of your minerals. Is really important to refuel with minerals. And so I drink an Element a day on average. They have unflavored if you don't want stevia in it. And then they have flavored things like tangerine, raspberry, and citrus salt, which tastes like green Gatorade, which I grew up drinking as a soccer player and I think is delicious. So what I would say for you is if there's a specific time that you snack, I'd want to take care of that morning snack first. I really would want, whenever you break the fast and have breakfast, I would want you to go at least 3 to 4 hours before lunch because I'd want that blood sugar curve to go up and come down without going back up again. What I was going to say is your blood sugar goes up, it starts to crash, you don't feel good, you think about snacks, you smell snacks, you're bored, whatever it is, you have a snack, your blood sugar goes up even higher. And what we're seeing is compounding blood sugar. We're seeing we're not starting at somewhere between 70 and 80 or even 90. We're up somewhere closer to 95, 99, 100. And then we have a snack on top of that. Well, we're going to have to metabolize that. Our blood sugar is going to go even higher. And so what we see over time is that snacking can create elevated blood sugar over time. And also elevated blood sugar creates inflammation. It can create and lay the foundation of disease. And what we want to see is that you're full, you're satisfied, and your blood sugar is coming back down before you have another snack or meal. And so my suggestion would be to definitely focus on the first half of the day first, or that, breakfast to lunch situation. We want to make sure that you're not snacking there. So I would grab a water and put an electrolyte packet in it and drink that water and make sure you're hydrated. And if you need to, if you know you're hydrated or you don't want to do an electrolyte powder, this would be a great time for tea. A great tea company would be Peak Tea. They're triple tested for mold, pesticides, and heavy metals. Tea or anything, as you've heard me talk about, that is grown in the soil is actually is good at sequestering heavy metals from the soil. So all this news about kids' food having heavy metals, this is not new information. Their kids' food is made out of produce, a lot of squashes and sweet potatoes and, tubers, all those big root vegetables. Yeah, they're really good at sucking heavy metals out of the soil. You're going to see heavy metals in the organic squash that you buy from the farmer's market. It's really about thinking about these powdered or processed plant-based powders and making sure that we are, because you're ingesting more than you would probably eat. It's concentrated. So concentrated in goodness, it may also be concentrated in heavy metals. So if you're using tea, you want to make sure that it's clean and tested. And it doesn't matter if it's from an organic farm or a non-organic farm. It's about the soil it's grown in. So let's not be worried about heavy metals when it comes to the produce that we buy. But when you think about the processed foods that you buy, pre-made baby food, teas, things like that, you want to start to think about it, especially like green powders, superfood powders. I tend to be a minimalist with all that stuff because I'd rather just eat real food and use really highly tested versions of things that I enjoy. So Peak Tea is something I enjoy. They do a microcrystallization process that ensures that their antioxidants and polyphenols are bioavailable and not broken down in processing. And you just pour the powder and the hot water together and you have tea. You don't have to wait for it to steep. You don't have to figure out the perfect steeping time. I'm the person who would put a tea bag in a glass of hot water, forget about it, come back, and it tastes super bitter. It's oversteeped. So whether you're having electrolyte water, some kind of clean tea, putting lemon in your water, if you don't want to use electrolytes, you could take Himalayan, pink salt or Redmond salt or, some kind of clean salt that contains multiple minerals. So you're looking for a color salt or a sea salt, something like that. Put a few shakes of that in your water. Just want to make sure that you're hydrated and that this snacking habit is really what it is. Is it a habit? And can we replace that habit? I talk a lot about replacing a habit before you remove a habit. That's so, so important and critical for so many of my clients. Another great example is if the snacking habit included a soda. If it's an afternoon thing and you're like, but I'll just have this Diet Coke this one time. Can we swap? Can we go from a Diet Coke to a Zevia, which is or an Olipop? So a soda alternative. And then from there, can we go to a flavored sparkling water, like a sound tea, which is also one of my favorites, organic tea and extracts. So fruit extracts like blueberry and sparkling water, and they have glass bottle options. And then from there, if you're moving away from that, can you move to just a plain sparkling water like a Mountain Valley, or even we'll get the Whole Foods spring sparkling or a Pellegrino. Little squeeze of lemon, squeeze of lime. Like nothing is better than the fresh fruit citrus into that sparkling water. I feel like mouths should be watering in the car or on your run right now. You're like, yes, I need to have that. I mean, that's how we need to talk about health food. We need to get excited about it and think about how good does it feel to eat a full meal of food that has that crisp lettuce that after you've washed it and spun it in your salad spinner and thrown it in your fridge, which is my absolute favorite thing to do. Wash it, spin it, put it in your fridge. It will be so cold and crisp with a drizzle of a bright apple cider vinaigrette, or another dressing that I love is a bright bitter vinaigrette is the best thing on cold lettuce. Anyway, so think about your snacking habit. Is it a habit? Can you replace it with something else? Do you need to go outside for a walk? Do you need to do some box breaths? Something to lower your stress levels and to change your scenery, to get up. I mean, we are sitting in our chairs, basically attached to our Zoom meetings, clients, podcasts, whatever it is that you're doing. Can you do it in a fun new way? So I would say tips for reining in snacking would be not to say, I'm never going to snack again and I'm not snacking from here on out, would be to look at your day and really attack each part of your day. So the most important time to attack your snacking would be between breakfast and lunch. And then I actually would skip lunch to dinner and I would go attack that time between dinner and bedtime. So either pick between breakfast and lunch or from dinner to bedtime, because those are going to have the most metabolic impact. Meaning, if you can get good at eating enough at breakfast and figuring out what your body needs to feel fueled and satisfied, to regulate those hunger hormones, and to get to lunch without needing to snack, and it may be habitual, but it also may be food related. So we want to make sure that you're having enough protein. Looking at the protein amount, at least 20 grams in research is showing us that that's where satiety markers hit. There's some research showing that 30 grams is where we're synthesizing new muscle tissue and feeling our best. So play somewhere in that range of 20 to 30 and see what makes you feel your best. Do you need to chew? Do you need to make a smoothie bowl and add toppings so that you can crunch? Do you need to have a hard-boiled egg? Do you need to have scrambled eggs? There are so many different variations to breakfast and what's going to make you feel your best. So dial in breakfast and get to lunch without snacking. And then the second time where, that second window of time where we're going to have the most metabolic impact is at night eating. Because anytime we're going to bed with a full stomach, elevated blood sugar, and the need to digest food, we're taking that time and blood flow away from lymphatic cleansing of the brain. And we're focusing on what is the most important thing for our body to do, which is to digest our food and bring down our blood sugar. And I cannot tell you how helpful it is to eat in the circadian window, which we eat when it's light out and not when it's dark out, that it can be so impactful for clients. And when we can eat an earlier dinner, as opposed to waiting until 2 or 4 p.m. or whenever we decide to break our fast and start our feeding window, I see double the weight loss. I see people feeling whip smart. I feel like it is so much more impactful. I don't just feel, I've seen it. I've seen it in clinical practice create such a better outcome for decreasing inflammatory markers, getting rid of bloat, having better digestion. When you're done with dinner, be done. And if you're someone that needs to have a sweet treat, have it right after dinner or right in that same 10 to 15 minute window after, so that we're still digesting at the same time. So that would be my suggestion, not have that bite of chocolate or whatever it is that makes you feel happy after dinner. If you have to or if you are a person who desserts, do it right with dinner. And try your best. If you're a mom, eat with your kids. That's been the greatest gift of all time for me, is to have a buddy to eat with when I want to eat at 5 or 6 o'clock at night versus waiting for Chris when he wants to eat at 8 or 9 o'clock at night when all the kids are sleeping and the house is clean and he can eat with his plate on his lap on the couch. So, which is so much fun and delicious. It's obviously a really nice experience to we call it just like be a glutton and Netflix and chill with the food that you've decided to eat and that comfort that it provides. But what I would say is it's all about creating the habit. So if you have kids and you can eat with your family and sit down and do it in a nice way, even if your child's throwing their food all over the place, one, you're just giving your body the gift of time. You're giving your body the gift of time to metabolize your food before you go to bed and to get better sleep. So one of my favorite things would be to use like a mint tea or a ginger tea if it's time for me to, calm it down. And Chris and I are going to watch one of our shows or read or whatever it is that we're doing that night. So think about that. And all of these little tips, pick one. I would say so many times I sit down with clients in January, at the beginning of the year, beginning of the month, when they first start working with me, when they get their blood test back, and they have the longest laundry list of things to do. And I will tell you, it does not serve you to feel overwhelmed by that list. You have to pick one and you have to get good at it. And if you can use some of the tips that maybe James Clear shares in Atomic Habits, we did an awesome podcast. I had a phenomenal podcast with James Clear where we go through how I've worked with clients, and I never knew, the terms that he uses, like habit stacking, creating an environment that makes it easier to do those things. But I never wanted wellness to be hard for my clients, and I wanted them to have those triggers to make it happen. And I wanted them to have the short list, and I wanted them to celebrate their wins of putting the Fab Four in their smoothie blender or putting it on their plate. And that part of it is so important. So definitely one habit at a time. And if you're looking to build sustainable habits in your life, go listen to that podcast episode with James Clear. It's like a game changer. And if you have the time, read his book or listen to it. It is the greatest thing. And really, habits make wellness easy. Some of the habits that I have or have created automatic habits include what we talked about earlier in this podcast. I get a box of protein delivered to my house. I get a box of produce delivered to my house. I'm actually saving money in both of those places. It's more affordable than, a big convenience store. It's more affordable than, because I'm buying bulk and I'm committing to it and I'm getting extras and bonuses for all of these places where I auto ship or have things delivered. It seems like a lot of work at first, but start with the things that you buy and start to look at your house like a business. How can you save money by automating? How can you save money by sourcing from a fewer number of places? And when you can, everything's on your phone. If you want to go in and see what something costs on Thrive Market versus what it costs at Whole Foods, you just open that Amazon app and you can see a real difference in dollars. And if time over time, grocery run after grocery run, you start to save money. And if you can make it automatic, you don't have to think about it. You just have to do it once. So get into the habit of making things automatic, and it'll feel less stressful. And then when life changes, like a pandemic and everyone's working from home, it feels really overwhelming. But remember, you have to start over. Like you have to start over in a new environment. When your world changes, to expect yourself to get to your Barry's boot camp class at 6 a.m. and then grab your smoothie after and then go to work and sit in your office and not snack. Well, it's a lot easier not to snack when you're in a cubicle or an office and a bunch of people are running in and out of your space versus sitting, doing Zoom meetings in some weird part of your house where your kids are popping in and your pantry is 5 feet from you. So just remember, you are not a failure if the pantry flybys are happening. You are not a failure if you've gotten off your workout routine. You are not a failure if you forget to take your supplements. You need to rebuild these habits in your new normal. And so what I would say is most of the people thought that the pandemic was going away. It would be a couple months of quarantine. And we are almost at the year mark. And really, this is the new normal, and we need to accept that. And we need to create automatic things that make living in this quarantined environment successful. And so I think when you listen to this podcast, what resonates with you as a tip? Are you going to not late night eat? Are you going to, are you going to gratitude journal, which we can talk about too? Are you going to look to save money in your house and go in and create auto ships, or look in your area for ways to save money and support small businesses around you? I think that is something that I've been really excited about, because working at home does provide me more time to explore these parts of my life. I'm not in the car driving to clients or studios and trying to work with people in person. I miss hugging my friends and my clients, but it has freed up some time for my family, and it has freed up some time for myself and for looking at becoming a real minimalist, saving money and saving time. So how can you do that in your own life? I would say first thing I would do is get a Thrive membership and start auto shipping those things that your family uses all the time. All right. This is what happens on my Zoom calls. I do Q&As and I just go down tangents, little rabbit holes here and there. All right, let's see what the next one is. How do you make time for self-care and mindfulness as a mom of young boys? Sip of water first, friends. Okay. Here's what I will tell you. I am 10 weeks, almost 11 weeks postpartum. So I'm in the sleep deprivation stage. I'm in the cuddle stage. I am the cow. I am the human milk source for baby T. I'm also being torn and pulled in the direction of Sebastian. And so self-care looks really different than it has in the past. What self-care looks like for me right now is Chris and I have made a pact to support each other to get 20 minutes to an hour of personal time a day. And what that means is at certain points in the day where it is zone defense. Each of us are taking care of both children. And so those 20 minutes, we talk about it the night before or right with coffee that morning of like, okay, let's go through the schedule real quick. Where are we going to sneak our hour in? And so for Chris, that might look like a surf. It might look like him, taking some time to write. It may just be him organizing the garage because a disorganized garage drives him crazy. And for me, that 20 minutes to an hour looks like moving my body, journaling, and or reading. So I prioritize working out right now because it makes me the happiest and it makes me feel the best. So self-care to me is 20 minutes in an Allie Love Peloton class, like her Sundays with Love, where it is inspiration and it is all that juju that you get from a spin cycle instructor when they are like, you are better than this. You can be anything you want to be in this world. We are in this together. Move your body. Like nothing makes me happier than feeling like I'm in it with other people. And that connection to me has been worth buying the bike. At first I was like, is this going to work out or is it going to end up being, something that you dry your laundry on? And I will tell you, I have used that bike. If I use it 20 minutes a day or 20 minutes every other day, it isn't about the length of time for me. It's that commitment and that consistency and not letting more than a day off in between. Just being connected to that experience is so, so important to me. And so, depending on the day, it's 20 minutes on the bike and a little strength, or I am going to start dipping into the other classes. I also have a global retreats is Tom Morley. He was a yoga instructor that I had gone to all throughout college. I remember being in his yoga class, surrounded by sweaty people. We're all doing those yoga moves together. It's one of those vinyasa flow classes where all of a sudden Britney Spears is playing and then it's Justin Bieber and, they're doing throwbacks and then there's a country song thrown in. Like music and the experience of movement together was really priceless to me. Like I thought about actually not being able to leave this bubble of Brentwood, which I lived in Los Angeles because of Maha Yoga, Steve Ross and Tom Morley and some of these instructors, because it made me feel so good. Like it was the best thing to start my day, to end my day, through college finals. I mean, it was so a part of my life. And so he actually does some virtual classes and I'll link those in the show notes. And it's a different experience being in Zoom, but anyone who's taken those classes knows how great they make you feel. And it's the happiest flow around. So find something that makes you happy. I think is one of the best ways to create, for me to have self-care is that. And I've taken a bath with Sebastian basically since he was born. None of those baby baths really worked out for me. I always felt like they looked super uncomfortable. And so I'd always just get in the bath because I've loved baths forever. And so now Bash is 2. And I know there's an expiration date on all of this, but now I have Bash in the bath with me and Chris takes care of Tosh and we do bath time together. And I actually put a mask on every time I get in the bath with him. And then he gets to finger paint when it's done. So I think finding the ways to make it a part of your life without it being like, and now because as a mom, we're needing to multitask and we're needing to find those special moments and actually sitting in the bath with Bash and, playing with his little surfers or his suction cups on the walls is really fun. And it's just part of what I do now. I throw some magnesium flakes in the bath. Depending on if he says yay or nay to bubbles, we do the bubbles. And then I throw the mask on. And I use a lot of naturopathica, summer Fridays. I have a versed mask. So that was something that I couldn't get as consistent with as I wanted to. And then I just sort of brought it into the routine. And now it's a fun thing because he'll ask me is the mask ready? Is the mask ready? And then he'll get to take his cute little finger and draw on my cheeks and my face. And then I wash it off and we pop out and read some books and say what we're grateful for and go to bed. So I think self-care as a mom, you definitely need those special times and like a massage or getting your nails done or having an hour to read on your own or whatever. For me right now, my self-care, because we're working on getting support, whether that be some childcare and this pandemic situation, is just like getting the time to move my body and have just me time to be just Kelly, not mom, dad, or whatever. Speaking of which, yikes, mom's got to run. Tasha's crying, but let me know on Instagram if you enjoyed the solo episode and what you want to hear about next time. And if I can ask you a big favor, if you're loving the podcast, will you take a minute to review us and let me know what you think? I want to provide you guys with the best content, and I want to know if you like this solo episode. Thank you for listening to Be Well by Kelly. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Learn more at BeWellByKelly.com and follow me on Instagram at BeWellByKelly. I would love if you picked up my books, Body Love and Body Love Every Day. They're sold on Amazon and at all major booksellers.